is now on pause.
This broke just moments ago. A judge has put former President Trump's election interference case on hold while he appeals a ruling on his claim that because he was president at the time, he has immunity from prosecution on this. Shannon Bream's here on the breaking news, but first we're going to go to David Spunt at Justice, reporting from Capitol Hill right now. Hi, David.
Yeah, hi, Martha. This is a big deal because Judge Tanya Chutkan, the judge assigned to this case that expected to see this entire trial through with Donald Trump, right now has essentially said, I don't have jurisdiction anymore because this case likely is going to become or come before the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has much more authority than a federal district judge in Washington, D.C. So with an order, Judge Chutkan just announced that she's putting this on hold right now. That means she's not going to accept new evidence or new writings or anything else on the public docket. Everything freezes in this case. And Martha, it's significant because it could push back the March 4th trial date. That's one day before Super Tuesday. When you look at the court calendar versus the campaign calendar, Donald Trump's team wants this to be pushed back until after the election. Special counsel Jack Smith's team actually went directly to the Supreme Court earlier this week and asked them to decide whether or not Donald Trump should be protected by presidential immunity. So while this is going to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court is giving Trump's team until next Wednesday to give some sort of response, Judge Chutkan has now said, listen, the Supreme Court is in charge. I'm going to hold off here. But ultimately, if the Supreme Court does not rule in the former president's favor, it may come right back to Judge Chutkan and we start the process all over again. But this is definitely a delay, Martha.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, it is a complete meltdown by liberal media. We'll get to some of it in just a little bit.
This
but
broke
is
just
it, yeah, oops, let me turn this off every time that happens. And I'll get to this news filing here. But before I do that, there is another headline I wanted to show you. Maybe it's not. I guess this is it. Actually, I have it on a different, I think it's on YouTube. So let's play this segment on MSNBC announcing the breaking news, or it was breaking at the time.
We have some genuine breaking news here. Judge Tanya Chutkan of the D.C. Court has granted Donald Trump's request for a stay of all proceedings in his D.C. criminal case, writing that Trump's appeal on presidential immunity grounds has forced her hand. All pending deadlines and court dates in that case will be stayed, but not vacated. This is about the appeal to the Supreme Court that Donald Trump has presidential immunity. Donald Trump didn't appeal to the Supreme Court, but Jack Smith did. The Supreme Court said, yes, it will considering it. It has asked Donald Trump's team to come up with a response to Jack Smith by next Wednesday, I believe, December 20th. And now Judge Chutkan is saying until the Supreme Court rules on this, she's going to put everything on hold. She's not vacating it. It's not getting thrown out, but she's going to put everything on hold. Back with us, MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin. Did I get that right?
You did. And what I would say about this order, it's a very short opinion in order, Katie. It's 3 pages long, is Judge Chutkan is saying that the trial is stayed and pretrial proceedings like discovery and motion practice are stayed too.
As in they're just put on hold.
They're put on hold. Nothing that Donald Trump's lawyers would have to do affirmatively is anything that they have to do until the appeal is resolved. However, she is siding with Jack Smith's team on one important issue. And she's saying, look, I don't get divested of jurisdiction over everything. I can still enforce the gag order, enforce a protective order over discovery, meaning Trump's team can't release all the discovery they've received from the government into the public domain. She still gets to exert jurisdiction over that. And she's saying that I get to ensure that he meets his conditions of release. You'll remember that when he was first indicted, he agreed to be released with some conditions. Those include not further violating state, local, or federal law and not contacting any of the witnesses in this case about their testimony in this case. So to the extent that Donald Trump violates those conditions of release, Jack Smith and his team have every right to go back before Judge Chutkan and let her know.
All rules still apply. Everything is just on pause. I'm going to read you a little bit from her order. She says, if jurisdiction is returned to this court, as in if she gets it back, consistent with its duty to ensure both a speedy trial and fairness for all parties, consider at that time whether to retain or continue the dates of any still future deadlines and proceedings, including the trial scheduled for March 4th, 2024. So March 4th, 2024 still could happen, she's saying, right?
That's right.
If the Supreme Court comes back fairly quickly.
That's right. And, right now, you and I discussed the other day, Jack Smith is sort of taking a two-tiered approach. He's asking both the D.C. Circuit to expedite its appeal and trying to go straight to the Supreme Court and leapfrog that D.C. Circuit. And they have agreed to expedite its consideration of whether to take the case. It's possible that they'll say, we're not going to take the case, but that the D.C. Circuit does and takes it on an expedited basis. So this is a little bit like a board game,
we're talking
right?
about expedited basis. Let's talk about how expedited they actually are. If the D.C.
You notice how that's paramount to them? It's so paramount to them that these cases get adjudicated before a certain period so that they can use it to make sure he's not elected. I don't understand. He has the charges and he goes up. Why do you think convicting him is going to stop any of that? I just don't. I don't get the rationale behind that. It just doesn't make sense to me. I do have another part. It's a part of this, but it's slightly adding another part to the conversation because we're still staying on January 6th, but I'm pivoting to this part here, where Vivek Ramaswamy, who had a town hall, is talking about January 6th. Now, let me read the tweet and then we'll watch. This is what Glenn Greenwald says, and it says, look how desperate CNN and Abby Phillips are to protect the FBI. She barely lets Vivek speak because FBI entrapment, which has been going on for decades, still is, and CNN hides it. New York Times, among those who marched in the Capitol on January 6th, an FBI informant. Now, this is what Glenn Greenwald is talking about. He's talking about this. Vivek Ramaswamy puts this out. It's a clip from his town hall that he did. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. He did the town hall. And we're probably going to cover it. Maybe Nick and CJ will cover it tomorrow. Let me read. It says, he tweets out, too bad for CNN. We'll take the truth on January 6th mainstream. There is clear evidence that there was, at the very least, entrapment of peaceful protesters, similar to the fake Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot and countless other cases. The FBI won't admit how many undercover officers were in the field on January 6th. Capitol Police, I said capitalist, that's the same thing. Capitol Police, on one hand, fired rubber bullets and explosives into the peaceful crowd, who then willingly later allowed to enter the Capitol. That doesn't add up, and the actual evidence turns the prior narrative upside down. If the deep state is willing to manufacture an insurrection to take down its political opponent, they can do anything. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, that's him, Vivek. Now, let's listen to what he clipped here.
So let me ask you about something that you said at the debate last week. You used the phrase inside job to describe what happened on January 6th. The next day, Capitol rioter Alan Hostetter highlighted your comments at his sentencing. He is going to prison for 11 years. Hostetter threatened members of Congress. He brought a hatchet, knives, pepper spray, stun batons, tactical gear to
Don't
the
care
US
about
Capitol.
any of that.
Are you concerned that a convicted felon like that is now promoting your comments in court?
So here's my concern, Abby. And I want to tell you guys where I'm at. If you had told me it's close to 3 years ago that January 6, 2021 happened. If you had told me 3 years ago, back when I was a biotech CEO, not steeped in this world, I was just consuming passive media, but was focused on my world of developing medicines. If you had told me that January 6th was in any way an inside job, the subject of government entrapment, I would have told you that was crazy talk. Fringe conspiracy theory nonsense. I can tell you now, having gone somewhat deep in this, it's not. I mean, the reality is this. We do have a government, first of all, we have to acknowledge, that has lied to us systematically over the last several years about the origin of COVID-19, about the Hunter Biden laptop that we were told was false by 51 CIA experts and otherwise before we now.
I need to stop here. He mentions COVID, so I had to say this for YouTube. I am playing a video from Republican primary candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. He has a town hall on CNN. What he's saying is not RBN's views. Understand that. So this is fair use. I'm just playing a news coverage. Got to say that for these guys.
We now know that it was true. You can go straight down the list, the Trump-Russia disinformation collusion hoax, all of it. Now we come to January 6th. The reality is we know that there were federal law enforcement agents in that field. We don't know how many. I think it's shameful. If I may finish this answer.
Well, let me
this
just,
is really important.
I'm going to go ahead and interrupt you here because
I know this,
that
the establishment doesn't approve of this message. I know
that there were federal
agents. We should be able to talk about this.
You're saying that there were federal agents.
This is important to talk about.
Now, I will bet my life that she got a call in the ear. You need to stop this shit, motherfucker. You need to stop this, Abby. If you want to have a job, Abby, you need to cut in. Now, if that was me, I don't care what she's cutting in. I'm not stop talking at all. We're just going to be two people yelling and nobody can understand. There's no way that I'm going to stop talking on this particular point if I'm Vivek Ramaswamy.
The reality is we know that there were federal law enforcement agents in that field. We don't know how many. I think it's shameful. If I may finish,
why do you have to stop here? Why do you have to stop him?
Because
I know this, the establishment doesn't approve of this message. I know
there were federal
agents. We should be able to talk about this.
You're saying that there were federal agents.
This is important to talk about.
You are saying there were federal agents in the crowd on January 6th. Yep. There is no evidence that there were federal agents in the crowd on January 6th.
So why before Congress went?
What? Yes, she said that.
Mm-hmm. Pressed on what the number was. They didn't say there were none. They just couldn't say how many.
You're saying that that you have not seen any evidence.
So we've seen multiple informants suggesting that there were. We know people were FBI informants who were asking.
Is there any evidence?
May I just finish?
Well, let me clarify.
I know it's very uncomfortable for you.
I'm going to clarify my question.
I know this is an uncomfortable issue for many people, but we have to do the truth.
I'm going to clarify my question because I want to make sure that you understand.
I understand this deeply. And I told you.
You understand this. Understand. Do you hear him saying, I know you're uncomfortable. You see how she doesn't acknowledge any of the stuff she's saying because he's right. A normal person who is not in line with what he's saying, meaning who is not doing what he's saying, who is not trying to tamp down this narrative, would not be doing this. They would be like, what? No, I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? You notice how she does not acknowledge that part of what he's saying. He says it multiple times. She skips over it. Rewind just slightly, and then we'll continue some more.
Let
me clarify.
I know it's very uncomfortable for you.
I'm going to clarify my question.
I know this is an uncomfortable issue for many people, but we have to do the truth.
I'm going to clarify my question because I want to make sure that you understand what I'm asking.
I understand this deeply. And I told you, I was with you 3 years ago. I'm not there now.
Where is the evidence?
Yes.
Where is the evidence that the government had a plot, an inside job?
But no, I'm going to tell you what an inside job is because I'm not
violence on January 6th.
I'm not going to let you put words in my mouth. I'm going to put my words in my mouth. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that.
Where is the evidence that the government was involved in planning?
You see how this is. Woo! Oh yeah, Nick and I are going to have to cover this whole thing. This is ridiculous. The fact that she is not acknowledging and addressing what he's saying, how she is purposely trying to stop him from saying this. Like by saying, what are you talking about? I'm not doing that. She is just trying to just stick to the talking point. Amazing. Amazing.
Or executing
Okay.
January 6th.
So I'm
Where's
going
that
to give you
evidence?
hard facts, and if I may, Abby, I know this is going to be a little uncomfortable, but we're going to go through this, and you can push
Just
back
waiting
on it
for
after
the
that.
evidence.
And you can push back on that, and let's do this fairly. Why did they suppress footage of now what's been released? 200 hours of footage of shooting rubber bullets into that crowd, shooting tear gas into that crowd. You didn't see that before. You saw what the response was to that. Now you see footage coming out of actually rolling out the red carpet for Capitol Police allowing
Ramswamy,
You just
again.
said you was gonna let him speak. Somebody's in her ear telling her there's no fucking way you're about to put that out there. Not with all these 91 charges still going on, not with the pause in the January 6th election. No way, sir. If you thought we gave you a town hall so you can talk and give what you think, you're wrong, sir. You're just going to answer our questions in the manner and format that we want them answered. That's all you're here to do, Vivek. Amazing. So Nick and I have to cover this. We have to cover this.
That video evidence should have been released before, Abby.
Mr. Ramswamy, the vast majority of the footage shows
And my deeper
police
question
officers
is this.
being overwhelmed.
Wow. Why would you? This shit is ridiculous. This shit is ridiculous, man.
Talk about one more
By
case.
violence,
This is really important.
Now, there is something I would do different. I would be quiet and let her talk. Let her finish. I wouldn't acknowledge anything she said. I would just continue where I left off in the story I'm telling. She would interrupt. Okay, stop. I'm just going to continue with the story I'm selling. You asked, you moved, you go commercial. Come back. Oh, now we're talking about immigrant. No, we're not. I'm going right back to what I was saying. That's what I would do. It is so, this is nakedly covering for this hoax that we call the fucking January 6th. It's very similar to October 7th. Very similar. Or maybe that's what Netanyahu is modeling his thing after. You just kind of, you hear something happen, you let it. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that for YouTube purposes. But let's let it play a little bit more, and then we're going to close here.
Writers. That's
I'm going to give you some hard facts.
Of it shows.
So here's what entrapment is.
Cherry pick.
I'm not cherry picking. If I may finish, Abby.
You see how she doesn't want him to.
To the contrary. To the contrary. You know who cherry picked? You know who cherry picked? The government.
That is what happened.
The government cherry picked
So
12
fucking
hours
terrible.
of when there was
This is so fucking terrible. And why is the audience clapping for the fucking host? Now, it was part of the audience, and you can tell which ones are the donors, right? You can tell which ones are the donors, the establishment, who wants to keep the January 6th. Watch who claps, because now we're seeing the audience.
When there was two.
There's one here in the bottom left in the beige coat. There's one sitting across from us over there in the red. Nobody else is clapping, but let's listen.
200 hours of cherry picking was the government, not me. Release the whole thing. And let me just finish one thing too, because this is super important as a topic.
So
I think this is a civil libertarian issue of our time.
When we
so the guy says this is super important. It's as if she can't hear him. It's not even like no, you're not. And I got a question. She doesn't. It's as if he's not speaking. And I'm drilling down on this. Do you understand how unusual that is? That is not how a normal conversation, even a contentious one, happens. When you're arguing, a person. Let's say you're arguing about A, and the person is arguing about A, but they're bringing up other shit. So now you're telling me the stuff that they're saying you're gonna speak to. She's not speaking to any of that.
First kidnapping. I want to be really clear on this because it's the same issue in the same FBI, same even part of the FBI. 3 people who were in an alleged plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer were acquitted at the
I'm the only one. Y'all are watching real time how I react to shit. Because this segment wasn't planned. When I was finishing up the other segment, I was going through my feed because I'm about to end the show. Let me go, because I normally go through my feed on Twitter. I found this video. I was like, wow, let me play this. And that's how this is an unplanned segment. And I am completely astonished by what she's doing, because an innocent person doesn't act like this. An establishment who stands on the truth that no, the FBI didn't plan January 6th and execute it, no, that didn't happen, they don't behave this way. You know who behaves this way? Somebody who understands that the FBI, the January 6th is a complete made up bullshit hoax carried out by the FBI, and you don't want that information to get out because you're still have a lot of people under your propaganda spell about that, and you can't even let tidbits of information get out, because that tidbit of information, then those people can pull that tidbit and find that string to more information. So you have to cut it off, even making it inaudible. That's why she kept talking over him. You have to make it inaudible so people who have fell for your propaganda don't even have the ability to look up what he's saying. It's terrible. And I'm surprised by that. Now, if I didn't hear this real time, I may not be as pumped up as I am about this particular video, and you may see it more toned down. But the fact that this is the first time I'm seeing it, and I'm astonished by the tactics that she's using to prevent him from talking, that only makes the listener believes what he's saying is true. If somebody's trying to get out information, just anywhere, hey, I want to tell you this, and there's somebody in front of them, no, trying to put their mind, wouldn't you be like, something that he's saying is the thing that I want to know? There has to be truth to what he's saying, because a person, why would you be trying to talk over a person who's telling you that the sky is red? Why would you be trying to talk over a person that's saying that? You wouldn't. You just let the person who's saying stupid shit say it themselves.